So let's quickly review the questions, right? I didn't actually answer any of the questions, but you can get all these questions answered just with a quick Google search, right? So, okay, name at least 7 of the 38 plus Native American tribes who actually claim Kentucky as their dark and bloody bluegrass home as of June 1st, 1792. So white people established the government in 1792, but who are the Native Americans who were living here and had some claim to the land that is, modern day Kentucky? So there's a whole bunch of them, right? The Shawnee was all over the place. Some of the major ones: Shawnee, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Yuchi. They should actually just be part of your Kentucky vernacular. Those 4: Shawnee, Cherokee, Chickasaw. The Shawnee was all throughout the state. The Chickasaw was in the western lands. Cherokee was in the Appalachian Mountains. Yuchi was also in the Appalachian Mountains. But all these, I said 38 plus. Actually, there's 28 plus, or 28, not 38. So 28 plus Native American tribes, which I have to correct. But that's just a whole shitload of the idea that there are no Native Americans is just absolutely ludicrous. Okay, but okay. So the Shawnee, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Yuchi, the Mosopelea, the Wyandot, the Mingo, which is part Seneca-Iroquois, the Chippewa, Delaware, Miami, Yamacraw, El River, Haudenosaunee, Kaskaskia, Kickapoo, Ottawa, Piankeshaw, Potawatomi, Tutelo, Illinois, Lanapota, Lanapota, the Creek, Muskogee Creek, Ojibwa, and then some really weird ones. They'll be written down. I guess in the description. I don't want to give you the answers, but yeah, you have to go to the next video to find them. I'll put last week's answers underneath the questions for this week. Okay, so yeah, the Shawnee, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Yuchi, you should just be able to name. I said name at least 7 of these 28. So all you gotta do is memorize like 3 more: Mingo, Wyandot, Chippewa. Done, right? Kickapoo, Ottawa, Piankeshaw, Tutelo, Illinois. You can just think of a whole nother state, right? Creek Indian, Ojibwa. So any of those would be acceptable answers. Just name 7 of them. There's who did the Shawnee consider their grandfather? So Shawnee is Kentucky. The Cumberland River used to be called the Shawnee River, and then they changed it. They anglicized it, right? So the Shawnee River, the Cumberland River, the Shawnee used to be everywhere. But what did the Shawnee, who did they consider their grandfathers, right? They believed a different tribe. They descended from a different tribe, and so they were sort of their younger cousin, or like a younger brother or whatever. I guess a grandson, since they're calling them the grandfathers. The name Shawnee also means southerner, right? Okay, so the Shawnee, they considered the Delaware, the Lenape, Lenape, the Lenape, the Delaware. It's easy to remember since it's a state, but I think the Lenape is how they want to be said. There's still some living today. So the Delaware Indians were, the Shawnee looked at them from actually descending them. So at one point they could have been the same tribe, but they just broke off into many different tribes. Name 4 famous Shawnee chiefs? Okay, so there's a Shawnee High School in Louisville, right? So you have a Shawnee Expressway right next to Shawnee High School in the West End. So we have all these names, and they've persisted till today. So we should know about the Shawnee Indians. My God, if there's one Native American tribe that every Kentuckian should know about. I even heard that Tecumseh could have been born in a Skippakitiki. We could have had a Tecumseh born right here. We know his father was. Puck Shinwa was born in Kentucky. We don't know if Tecumseh actually was. Okay, so Tecumseh, Puck Shinwa, both of those are ones you should know. I only said name 4 of them. So the biggest ones, Malutha actually is a good one that I just will add to this list. I have 8 listed now, but Malutha was assassinated, so that's why I think Malutha is an important one to remember. Hugh McGarry killed him while he had a prisoner of war. He was a chief of them, but he went with a peace errand. He didn't even, didn't have a tomahawk and didn't attack them whatsoever. But while he was in custody of the English colonists, just killed him. So Malutha. That's they did that again. You know, they actually started that with Cornstalk. So I wanted to mention Cornstalk because he had fought at the Battle of Point Pleasant, which was the first battle in the American Revolution. The Battle of Point Pleasant is the first battle of the American Revolution, and this is significant because the first battles against the Native Americans and the last battle of the American Revolutions were against the Native Americans. So who was the American Revolution actually against? The majority of Native Americans, the majority of slaves fought for the so-called British side, or they were just fighting for their own side, their own freedom, because they knew that English colonists were fucking, you know, just butchers. They were just savages. So they knew that English colonists, they would just burn, destroy entire towns like the Pequot, right? They totally made the Pequot, they exterminated them. They made them extinct. We don't have any more Pequot. We don't have any more Taino Indians or Arawaks. We don't have any more Yamansis who come out of Georgia and actually we don't have any of them. If you just look around, where are the Native Americans? So they're all gone, but some of the tribes, they just been completely wiped out. Eventually some of these Native Americans are in Oklahoma and they have some reservations that they're living on. I think there's some reservations here, but for the most part, the Cherokee, the Shawnee, the Yuchi, the Chickasaw, you know, the Piankeshaw, the Piankeshaw, and the whole other list of Native Americans I just named, which is the Delaware, the grandfathers, you know, were in Kentucky, the Miami, the Yamacraw, but Mingo, Wyandot, these are huge ones, right? The Piankeshaw, that's what I was trying to say, Potawatomi, Tutelo. So Delaware, Miami, Mingo, Chippewa, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Yuchi, Mosopelea. I don't even know who the Mosopelea are. And some of these I never even heard of. The Eel River Indians. I'm going to have to actually Google search the Eel River Indians and see what it is I'm looking at. So 7 minutes and I'm still explaining the first 5 questions that I posed from Kentucky First Peoples #1. Okay, so that's the first 3 questions. What year did France lose their mainland occupied territories in modern-day continental America? What year did France lose their mainland occupied territories in modern-day continental America? The answer, 1763. You have the French and Indian War, which I didn't know from before, but it is the 4th intercolonial war in the United States, or in the place where the United States is today. So, you know, the American Revolution is 1776 to 1783 or 81, depending if you think it's the end of the fighting or the end of the treaty. Signing of the treaty is what ends the war, but Yorktown was 81, and then signing the Second Treaty of Paris was in 83. But that was the American Revolution. So that's 1776, 1792. That's when the Kentucky becomes a state. 1774 is when Harrodstown becomes established. That's when white people first established. They set foot 2 years before America declared their independence. So, you know, like they declared their independence from England, but they're taking other people's. And there was a Western theater of the war, Western, you know, theater of the American Revolution. Then there's the Eastern theater. The Eastern theater was more about the colonists versus the British, but in the western part, it was really just a wild, wild west out here. There was French, there was Native Americans, there was English, there was Spanish. So you had a lot of people, you know, competing and fighting for territory in the western theater of the American Revolution. So the first battle was against the Native Americans. The last battle, Simon Girty, he was a white guy that fought in the Battle of Blue Licks against Daniel Boone. Simon Girty, he believed that all these wars was just to steal Native American land. So what I was trying to get to is you got the American Revolution. Now, before the American Revolution, you have 1492, you know, Christopher Columbus. But the 1400s, that's kind of really late in the 1400s, 1492. And plus, he was in the Bahamas, right? He landed in Barbados, and he goes to Cuba, and he goes to Haiti. So you have the American Revolution, then you have right before the American Revolution was the French and Indian War. So the 1492, Christopher Columbus, you had Hernando de Soto kind of go through the eastern woodland Native Americans. He was there with Pizarro conquering Inca lands, right? All of the Incan Empire was destroyed by Pizarro, a Spanish conquistador. And who was riding with Pizarro? Hernando de Soto. And who's Hernando de Soto? Well, he's the one that eventually comes up through Florida, through Georgia, and all these other southern states, cuts the tip of Kentucky that I've heard. And so he actually made it to Kentucky, made it to the Ohio River, made it to the Mississippi River. and so that's Hernando de Soto, but that was 1540. Okay, so 1539 to 1542. Then eventually dies, and they kind of kill everybody. But right before or before that, there isn't much going on. Right after that, there isn't much going on. The first the historic period is the 1700s. Okay, so there's nothing going on. 1400s, not shit. 1500s, nothing's really going on. 1600s, now the 1600s is when the English established Jamestown, the first English settlement that was successful. So that's when kind of the distinction between prehistory and history is a significant one, because it's racist. It's definitely racist to say prehistory. Native Americans are prehistory. How can you say something like that? How can you say, you know, that if I don't know, if I'm a Native American, then I didn't start when the Europeans got here. I started when, you know, my ancestors were here. So to call my ancestors prehistory, it's like, well, real history was the white people, and then before history you had all these, you know, tribal people. The reason why I will use it, it's racial list. It doesn't necessarily have to be used in a racist way. It's racial list. The white people, when they got here, they were writing all their stuff down. So because white people were writing their stuff down, we have better documented history of what was going on, because white people were writing stuff down, whereas Native Americans was more of an oral, traditional type of culture. Okay, so you have, right, the Delaware were the grandfathers of the Shawnee. France lost all their occupied territories in 1763 at the end of the French and Indian War. That's when they eventually they regained it through a treaty, and then they signed the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. There's the Napoleon War with Haiti and Thomas Jefferson. So 1763, they lose it, they pick it up through a treaty somehow, and then they sell it. So really it was just all on paper, but by 1763, all the colonies, all the main efforts of having France trying to colonize northern America was all stopped. So then it was just Spain and England and the colonists, right? So I haven't got to the cave mummies. I haven't got to the giants. There's giants, these red-headed giants. Why do we have red-headed giants in Kentucky? What does that mean? They're human skeletons, 6 feet tall. This is a whole other tribe, a whole other type of people, if it really is indeed true. So 1763, that was when they signed the first Treaty of Paris, ended the French and Indian War. Then there was no more French in the mainland of America. Cultural anthropology, glutochronology. These are all the fields of study. There's 9 fields of study that try to figure out where did we humans come from. History is one of them, so don't forget that, because history can, if we know, you know, we have all these artifacts, but who knows what an artifact is. But if we know if there was a big town, like in Irvine, Kentucky, there's a town, and Anwanee, right? So Anwanee, you have a town, and it was a Shawnee town. So where was that town at? You had Indian Oldfields and Skippakitkee. That was a town too. A major battle, a house, you know, anywhere where things could have happened. A mastodon getting stabbed. So like a Big Bone Lick, there's Shawnee up there. So there's a lot of things that could be found through history, because it gives an indication of if a battle or war had happened here, then you could find, you know, some artifacts. Then I'm not even going to get through these 5 questions. So I'm just going to write them off. Cultural anthropology, glutochronology, physical anthropology, the study of humans, right? The physical way, the cultural way. Human genetics, there's DNA, actually. That's how we know that we all came out of Africa, through DNA. Epidemiology, I think the study of disease. You can study different diseases, you know, diffuse. Botany, the study of similar plants. Zoology, the study of similar animals. Archaeology, the study of ancient artifacts. And then history. So those are the 9 ways, 9 fields of science, and I wanted you to know 4 of them. So you remember 4 easy ones: botany, zoology, archaeology, and history. The human genetics you should know, because genetics is hard to, you can't argue with genetics, DNA and shit. Botany, zoology, that's the study of plants and animals, just to answer the question. And then look up what glutochronology is, and then tell me what it is, because I don't know what glutochronology is. I did get this all from James Llewellyn book, Teaching What Really Happened. So if you wanted to know where I'm getting this information, that's where it came from. 14 minutes, so that I finally answered the first 5 questions. I'm going to just ask the next 5 questions, okay? So How do you say hello in Cherokee, Chickasaw, Shawnee, and Yuchi? So these are the 4 main Native Americans that I think all Kentuckians should know about. In Cherokee, how do you say hello in Cherokee, Chickasaw, Shawnee, and Yuchi? How do you say hi? You know, if I was to say Chakma, would you know what I was talking about? Sangale. Ah, Sangale, Sangale, Chokma. Okay, what white man sent by Abraham Wood in 1673 was kidnapped by the Tomahitans in southern Tennessee, stayed with them for a year, even fought in the raids against Spanish settlements in Florida, enemy Indian settlements on the Atlantic seaboard, and Shawnee towns on the Ohio River. Named 3 extinct Native American tribes where there are no more. What 3 tribes in 1745 warred against each other for 3 days in modern-day Bellevue, Kentucky, which is the northern tip of Kentucky, just east of Newport. Covington, what 3 tribes in 1745 warred with each other? Name 3 extinct tribes. And on what Kentucky River did the Yuchi have an established... Fuck! It's 16 minutes. Sorry for getting all mad. I hope all this fucking carries on. It's way over, and if it gets canceled, I have to do this whole video over again. So maybe I can accept more videos, but I am just wasting my time.